When he was younger, he didn't think of himself as a jealous man. Jealousy in his mind belonged to angry people, insecure people, people who couldn't control themselves. He believed he was simply aware of how easily people changed, aware of how quickly loyalty faded, aware of how often love slipped through careless hands. So when the feeling crept in, that tightness in his chest, that heat behind his eyes, he justified it. He told himself it was protection. He told himself it meant he cared. And at first, jealousy didn't cost him much. It started quietly, a raised eyebrow when a friend succeeded, a question asked twice when a partner smiled at someone else, a joke that carried a sharp edge, nothing dramatic, nothing worth apologizing for. But jealousy is patient, it doesn't rush, it waits to be fed. Over time, it began to shape the way he saw the world. Every compliment someone else received felt like something taken from him. Every moment of happiness he wasn't part of felt like betrayal. He measured love not by trust, but by control, and the people around him felt it. Friends noticed the way conversations turned competitive, how celebrations were followed by cold distance, how support came with conditions attached. They didn't confront him at first, they made excuses. He just passionate, he just cares deeply. But caring when mixed with jealousy doesn't feel like love, it feels like pressure. The first person to leave was a friend he'd known for years. There was no argument, no explosion, just space that slowly grew wider. Texts unanswered, invitations declined. One day he realized he was scrolling through old photos of a life that no longer included him. He told himself it was their loss. The second loss hurt more. She was patient. She reassured him. She explained. She tried to show him that love wasn't something that needed guarding like a locked door. But every time she reached out, jealousy pulled him back. He questioned her intentions, her honesty, her loyalty. He didn't notice the exhaustion in her eyes until it was permanent. When she finally said she was leaving, he accused her of proving him right. He didn't hear the truth beneath her words, that she wasn't leaving because she didn't love him, but because loving him had begun to cost her herself. After that, the losses came faster. People stopped staying long enough to argue. They learned it was easier to fade away, to let silence do what confrontation couldn't. And with every goodbye, jealousy whispered the same lie. See, you were right not to trust them. Years passed. He built a life that looked fine from the outside. Work, routine, occasional laughter. But inside, there was a growing quiet. The kind that echoes, the kind that reminds you of what's missing. It was only when he began to slow down, when the noise of ambition faded and the days grew more reflective, that the truth began to surface. One evening he found himself alone, surrounded by memories instead of people, names he hadn't spoken in years, voices he could still hear if he tried. And for the first time, the question didn't feel like accusatory, it felt honest. What if it wasn't them? The thought scared him, because if it wasn't them, then it was him. And that meant the loneliness he carried wasn't bad luck or betrayal, it was consequence. Jealousy, he realized, had promised him safety but delivered isolation. It had convinced him that guarding his heart meant tightening his grip, when in reality it had been slowly closing his hands around everyone else's. It had taught him to see threats where there were none, and enemies where there had once been love. Regret arrived not as a sudden wave, but as a steady ache. He remembered moments now, times he could have listened instead of accused, trusted instead of tested, celebrated instead of compared. He saw how often he chose pride over peace, control over connection. And regret, unlike jealousy, doesn't shout. It sits quietly beside you and waits. For a long time he believed it was too late. Too many bridges burned, too many doors closed. He told himself this was simply the price of age, that loneliness was inevitable, that people drifted, that this was how life worked. But one morning something shifted. He realized that while he couldn't return to the moments he'd lost, he could still decide who he would be in the moments he had left. Change didn't begin with apologies sent into the past. It began internally, with honesty that hurt, with the humility to admit that jealousy had never been love, it had been fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear of being left behind. And fear, when left unexamined, grows teeth. So he started small. He noticed that feeling when it arose, that familiar tightening, that urge to compare or question instead of acting on it. He paused. He asked himself what he was really afraid of losing. He practiced silence where they once would have spoken sharply, trust where he once would have demanded proof. He learned that letting go didn't mean losing, it meant allowing people to choose him freely. Not everyone came back. Some relationships are chapters, not lifetimes, and part of growth is accepting that some people will always remain memories, but new connections formed, different ones, healthier ones, built on space instead of suspicion. Most importantly, he found peace within himself. Jealousy had once defined him, but it no longer controlled him. It became a teacher, a reminder of who he didn't want to be again. Now when he looks back, the regret is still there, but it no longer paralyzes him. It guides him. Because the truth he learned, the one he wishes he understood sooner, is this: love doesn't shrink when shared, trust doesn't weaken when given, and letting go is not the same as losing. Jealousy takes more than it protects, but awareness, even late, can still save what remains. And if there's one message his life now carries, it's this: it's never too late to choose differently, to soften, to grow. Because the moment you stop letting fear decide how you love is the moment life begins to open its doors again.